Hi, this is Alexandra Kitty, and this is Officer Down, the podcast that looks at true crime stories where the victim is someone in law enforcement. So today we're going to talk about the Allen, Kentucky police shooting, also known as the Heroes Bridge tragedy. And it happened fairly recently in 2022. So on June 30th, 2022, in Allen, Kentucky, it became the site of one of the deadliest law enforcement attacks in modern Kentucky history, where Lance Stores, 49, ambushed police officers attempting to serve a domestic violence emergency protective order. The tactical ambush resulted in the deaths of 3 officers and a K-9, with 4 additional officers severely wounded. This incident, described as the deadliest law enforcement death event in Kentucky since 1923, permanently altered the small Appalachian community and sent shockwaves through law enforcement nationwide. So let's talk about the victims. Captain Harlow Frazier, age 60. Captain Frazier dedicated 39 years to law enforcement with the Prestonburg Police Department, serving as both captain and school resource officer in Prestonburg High School. Born on May 17, 1962 in Wabash, Indiana, he was beloved by students and colleagues alike. Chief Randy Woods recalled Frazier refused orders to stay away from danger during the shooting, instead rushing to aid of his fellow officer. Mayor Les Stapleton remembered him as a mentor who taught young officers that policing wasn't always about a black and white, it's about what was right. Frazier had even quit smoking to become a school resource officer because he wanted to work with students who loved him dearly. Deputy William Edward Petrie, age 60. Deputy Petrie served law enforcement for 31 years, including time with Kentucky State Police, where he was named Post 9 Trooper of the Year, the Preston Police Department, and finally, the Floyd County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff John Hunt described him as a dream to have work for you, noting that Petrie wasn't an authority guy, but simply wanted to help somebody. Petrie had initially come back from retirement to serve as a school resource officer before rejoining full-time as a deputy. He was also fire chief for Martin City Fire Department. His wife Sherry waited for him to come home for dinner every night. On June 30th, 2022, he never made it. Officer Jacob Russell Chaffins, 28. The youngest victim, Officer Chaffins, served with the Prestonburg Police Department as a K-9 handler partnered with K-9 Nelson. Born in Pikerville and raised in Prestonburg, he joined the Army National Guard in 2013, started with the Prestonburg Fire Department in 2017, and transferred to the Police Department in 2019. He also worked as an EMT. Chaffins met his wife Savannah in 2014 when he responded to her 911 call. He left his phone number and returned even every day for a week until she agreed to go out with him. They married in 2018 and had a daughter, Paisley, in 2016. Chaffins died on July 1st, 2022 from injuries sustained in the shooting. K-9 Drago. K-9 Drago, a police dog with the Floyd County Sheriff's Office, was shot to death inside his cruiser during the hail of bullets. His handler, a Deputy Dusty Newsome, survived the shooting. There were other officers injured as well. A Deputy Darren Lawson, shot in the leg, underwent approximately 17 surgeries over 5 months before making the decision to have his left leg amputated below the knee in November 2022. Lawson reported the amputation actually improved his mental health, as he no longer had to look at the damaged leg daily. He is working toward returning to duty and learning to walk again with a prosthetic. Emergency Management Director Joe Reynolds, shot in the eye, requiring surgery, lost his left eye and vision. Kentucky State Police Officer Billy Ball, shot during the incident. Constable Gary Wolf sustained multiple facial and eye injuries. Deputy Chris Hall, Deputy Dusty Newsome, Prestonburg Officer Keith Duncan, KSP Officer Bailey Combs, and Michael McKinney, Deputy Adam Dixon, Constable Gary Nelson, and Prestonburg officers Keegan Williams and Dennis Hutchinson all faced gunfire or suffered injuries from glass, shrapnel, and debris. So let's talk about Allen, Kentucky, a little bit about its profile, demographics, and location. Allen, also known as Allen City, is a small home rural-class city in Floyd County, Kentucky, located at the confluence of Beaver Creek and Lavisa Fork, approximately 4 miles southeast of Prestonburg. As of 2020, Allen had a population of just 184 residents, with 2025 estimates placing it at 172, which is a 6.5% decline. The town is overwhelmingly white, 96.82%, with a median age of 22.8 years and a median household income of $33,000. The poverty rate stands at 18.42%. Allen was the first settled city in the early 19th century, with the first post office named Mouth of Beaver, established in 1854. The town developed rapidly around 1904 to 1905 after the establishment of the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway Station. Formally incorporated in 1913, Allen was named after local resident T.J. Allen. Allen has a history of deadly violence. In October 1981, a 70-year-old local miner shot 8 people at an auto parts store, killing 5 and wounding 3 in a dispute-related mass shooting. Now, a little bit about Floyd County crime statistics. Floyd County maintains a remarkably low crime rates. Over the 2019 to 2024 period, the county recorded 182 violent crimes and 181 property crimes, averaging 53.5 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, which is 49.6% below the national average. Property crime averages just 5.4 per 100,000, an astounding 96.7 below the national average. However, domestic violence remains a significant issue across Kentucky, with nearly half of all violent crimes in the state rooted in domestic violence. Prestonburg, the Floyd County seat, located about 5 miles from Allen, has a 2025 population of 3,571. The city serves as the economic and governmental center for Floyd County, which has an estimated 2025 population of 33,433. Now about the killer, Lance Preston Storrs. Lance Preston Storrs, who was born October 1972, died on February 28, 2023, was 49 years old at the time of the shooting. He had lived in Allen for just over a year, having previously resided in St. Petersburg, Florida, before moving to Kentucky. Neighbors described him as friendly and helpful prior to the shooting. Storrs has had an extensive criminal history, however, dating back to the 1990s, while living in the Orlando area city of DeLand, Florida. He also had an extensive traveling history throughout his life. Now about the domestic violence incident. On June 30th, 2022, at around 2:30 p.m., an officer received a phone call reporting that Storrs was holding a woman, his wife Christina Storrs, against her will and abusing her. According to Christina's emergency protective order complaint, when she told Storrs she was leaving him, he became irate and said he wouldn't let her leave. She alleged he trapped her in a bedroom, threw her around, slapped her, and sexually assaulted her. He brandished a pistol and demanded she beg for her life and their daughter's life. Storrs allegedly told Christina, "I have nothing to lose and I'm all in," and that she would never leave him outside of a body bag, threatening to kill their daughter as well. A relative of Christina's who was in contact with her asked police to check on her. When officers arrived, Storrs was asleep, allowing Christina and their daughter to escape to safety. Now, the timeline of the attack and the tactical setup. Storrs' residence was strategically positioned on an elevated ground with a clear 200-yard field of fire and only one single-lane road leading to the property. Floyd County Judge Executive Robbie Williams described it as a nearly unbreachable position and a tactical ambush. Sheriff John Hunt said Storrs was watching the deputies approach from an upstairs window and had a perfect line of sight. At approximately 6:44 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Lloyd County Sheriff's deputies, William Petrie, Chris Hall, Darren Lawson, and Dusty Newsom, arrived at Storrs' residence on Main Street in Allen to serve the emergency protective order. According to witnesses, Storrs used the butt of his firearm to break out a window and then began firing. Sheriff Hunt stated Deputy Petrie was the first one. The suspect immediately opened the door and had been waiting on them. Deputy Lawson was immediately shot when he exited his vehicle. Deputy Newsom dragged Lawson out of the line of fire. The deputies called for help, and additional units from Kentucky State Police, Prestonburg Police, and constables arrived on the scene. Sheriff Hunt described what officers encountered as pure hell. They had no chance, he said. One officer was pinned under a car for so long by gunfire that he suffered carbon monoxide poisoning. K-9 Drago was shot to death inside his cruiser in the hail of bullets. Storrs used a high-powered rifle to fire multiple rounds at officers. He was equipped with multiple weapons, a body armor vest, and a substantial amount of ammunition. Floyd County prosecutor Keith Bartley observed that Storrs used multiple weapons during the standoff. Sheriff Hunt described the shooting as planned. The shooting lasted 4 hours. Storrs surrendered around 10 p.m. after negotiations that included his family members. He was taken into custody outside his home. The aftermath and the immediate response. Governor Andy Bashir addressed the shooting on social media on July 1st, 2022. Last night, we lost 2 brave first responders and a K-9 in Floyd County. Brittany and I are praying for the families of those lost, those injured, and the entire Allen community. These heroes sacrificed everything to protect our people. Attorney General Daniel Cameron called the officers' actions unimaginable heroism and sacrifice in the face of evil. Thousands of law enforcement officers from across the Commonwealth and nation gathered for funeral services. Deputy William Petrie, July 5th, 2022, at Mountain Arts Center in Prestonburg. Captain Ralph Frazier, July 6, 2022, at Mountain Arts Center, Prestonburg, and Officer Jacob Chafin's services held following his death on July 1st, 2022. Large memorials were created outside of Prestonburg City Hall and Floyd County Courthouse. The bodies of the fallen officers were transported from Frankfort to Martin, with routes posted for those wishing to pay respects. As for the legal proceedings, on July 1st, 2022, Storrs was arraigned on multiple charges, including 2 counts of murder of a police officer, later upgraded to 3 after Chafin's died. He pleaded not guilty and was jailed on a $10 million bond. On July 11th, 2022, a grand jury returned a 20-count indictment, including 3 counts of murder, 2 counts of first-degree assault, 6 counts of criminal attempt to commit murder, 7 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment, first-degree assault on a service animal, K-9 Drago, and 4th-degree assault domestic violence. Prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty if the case went to trial. On February 23, Lance Storrs was found dead in an apparent suicide in his cell at the Pike County Detention Center, where he was being held awaiting trial. Commonwealth attorney Brent Turner confirmed Storrs hanged himself in the bathroom area of his cell. He was 50 years old at the time of his death. Sheriff Hunt stated, "I think the widows and the children will be satisfied. I think they got what they wanted." However, Deputy Darren Lawson, who survived the shooting, expressed anger. "He took the easy way out. I think he's a coward. I'm not sad by any means. I'm mad that I didn't get a chance to look at him in the eyes and tell him how I felt about it." Floyd County prosecutor Keith Bartley called Storrs a coward who didn't want to face up to what he'd done. In 2023, the names of Captain Frazier, Deputy Petrie, and Officer Chaffins were engraved in the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. U.S. Representative Hal Rogers honored them during National Police Week on the House floor. A bridge in Floyd County was designated the Heroes Bridge in their honor. On the 3rd anniversary, June 30th, 2025, new Black monuments were unveiled at the Floyd County Courthouse to honor the fallen officers and K-9 Drago. Judge Executive Robbie Williams stated, "We're not going to allow these officers' legacies to be defined by the events that occurred on June 30th, 2022. These were men of character, compassion, and a moral compass that voluntarily placed them in harm's way." Deputy Darren Lawson and Emergency Manager Director Joe Reynolds continue to fight for hazardous duty benefits, highlighting gaps in Kentucky law that affect first responders injured in the line of duty. Neither man qualified for such benefits due to their time in service in their respective roles. State Representative Ashley Tackett Lafferty is pushing for legislative changes to expand eligibility. Prestonburg Police Chief Ross Shurtleff reflected on the lasting impact. "You got to think Allen is the deadliest law enforcement encounter in Kentucky in the 19th or 20th century. To watch that happen, to be a part of that, to know what a bravery really is, and on the flip side, to know what cowardice is. It's a powerful thing to learn." Floyd County Judge Executive Robbie Williams described the community as forever changed by the tragedy. Sheriff Hunt noted the emotional toll on his department. "It's been different. Oftentimes there's days we think we're past it, other times we cry." The shooting remains the single deadliest event for Kentucky law enforcement in almost a century and stands as a stark reminder of the dangers police face even in small rural communities or responding to domestic violence calls. The incident marked the deadliest law enforcement death in Kentucky since the 1923 prison riot that killed 3 officers. The attack, planned and executed with tactical precision by a domestic violence offender, scores the extreme dangers officers face when serving protective orders, a routine but potentially lethal aspect of modern policing. So we can see when somebody is just ready to explode, there isn't much you can do. So this is a case where somebody picked his house wanting to see around. So it was always in the back of his advantage. How, if I put myself in a corner, how can I make as much damage and harm as many people as I can? So it's something to think about, to be aware of your surroundings. And I'm not talking just police officers. Sometimes you have to look where a person buys the house, how it's situated. It tells you a lot about that person, what they're planning, and how they think in terms of strategy, and what it can mean for those who have to rescue somebody in that place. So that's all I have to say for this week. Next week is the final episode of the season, and then season 2 comes with a slightly different twist on the subject. So till then, I'm Alexandra Kitty, and this has been Officer Down.